The cameras were rolling. The studio lights beamed down. Millions of people were watching. Davante Adams sat across from the host, answering questions about football, his career, and the upcoming season. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. The host leaned forward, shifted the conversation, and asked something Adams wasn't expecting. The question had nothing to do with football. It was personal, controversial, and crossed the line. Adams's expression changed. The energy in the room shifted. And when he finally responded, his words would be heard around the world. The interview started just like any other. The host welcomed Davante Adams, flashing a professional smile as the cameras zoomed in. "Welcome to the show, Davante. Big season ahead for you. How are you feeling?" Adams nodded, relaxed. "Feeling great, focused, ready to go." For the first few minutes, the conversation stayed on safe ground. The host asked about Adams's training routine, his chemistry with teammates, and his mindset for the upcoming season. Adams answered smoothly, as if he had done this 100 times before. But then, the host's tone shifted. "Let's talk about something bigger than football for a second." Adams's expression didn't change, but he knew what was coming. He had seen this happen to other athletes before. The shift from sports to something deeper, something more controversial. "You have a huge platform, millions of fans. Don't you think athletes like you have a responsibility to speak out on social issues?" Adams leaned back slightly, thinking for a moment. "I think athletes have a responsibility to be themselves. Some guys speak out, some don't. That's their choice." The host nodded but wasn't satisfied. He pressed further. "But don't you think staying silent on certain issues sends the wrong message?" Now, the tension in the studio was building. Adams kept his cool, but his body language changed. He was no longer just answering questions. He was being challenged. "Some say athletes should stick to football. Others say silence means complicity. Where do you stand?" The question hung in the air. The host had set a trap. If Adams stayed neutral, he'd be called out. If he took a stand, he'd be dragged into a political firestorm. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Adams leaned forward, locked eyes with the host, and spoke. What he said next, it changed everything. The studio was silent. The air felt heavy. Davante Adams had been in tough situations before, on the field, in the media, in high-pressure moments. But this wasn't football. He took a slow breath and leaned in slightly, his voice calm but firm. "I play football. I work hard. I put everything into my game. That's what I do." The host smirked, sensing hesitation. "So you're saying you don't want to speak on these issues?" Adams shook his head, his tone sharpening. "I'm saying I don't owe anybody my voice on topics they pick and choose." The host's eyebrows raised. He wasn't expecting that answer. "But don't you think fans, especially younger ones, look up to you? Don't they deserve to know where you stand?" Adams tilted his head slightly. He could see what was happening. This wasn't a conversation. It was a setup. "So, if I say what you want to hear, I'm a leader. But if I say I just want to play football, I'm avoiding something?" The host hesitated for the first time. Adams had flipped the conversation back on him. "I just think public figures like you should use their platform for good," the host said, leaning back. Adams nodded. "I agree, and I do, by leading by example, by showing kids that hard work, discipline, and focus matter." The host tried again. "But don't you think silence on certain issues makes you complicit?" That was it. Adams exhaled, then sat forward, looking the host dead in the eye. "Silence doesn't mean complicity. It means I don't let people like you tell me what I have to say." The studio went completely still. The host blinked, struggling to respond. The crew shifted uncomfortably. Nobody expected Adams to push back like that. And when the cameras kept rolling, Adams wasn't done yet. What he said next, It would send shockwaves across the country. The tension in the studio was thick. The host shifted in his chair, clearly thrown off by Adam's last response. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Athletes usually played along, answered carefully, avoided controversy. But Adams? He wasn't backing down. The host cleared his throat, trying to regain control. I'm just saying, with your influence, don't you feel an obligation to… Adams raised a hand, cutting him off. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp. An obligation to who? To you? The host hesitated. For the first time, he looked unsure. Adams leaned in, his voice steady. Let me tell you what I believe. I believe people should think for themselves, speak when they want to speak, and not be pressured into saying something just to please a TV audience. The host tried to interrupt, but Adams wasn't finished. You want a headline? Here it is. I play football. That's my job. You sit here and push narratives. That's yours. But don't expect me to play along. Silence. The host blinked, his mouth slightly open. He had nothing. The seconds ticked by. Finally, the host forced a tight smile. Well, that's certainly an answer. Adams smirked, shaking his head. It's the truth. The producers in the control room were scrambling. This was not how they expected the segment to go. The conversation was over, but the damage was done. The moment the cameras stopped rolling, crew members exchanged glances. They all knew this was going to explode, and they were right. By the time Adams walked out of the studio, the clip was already ripping through social media. Fans, analysts, and celebrities were all reacting. But it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Adams's final words weren't just a response, they were a statement, and soon, the entire country would be talking about them. The clip spread faster than anyone expected. Within an hour, it was trending across social media. Fans, analysts, celebrities, everyone had an opinion. Some praised Adams, calling his response one of the most honest moments from an athlete in years. Finally, someone who isn't afraid to push back. Davante Adams just gave a masterclass in handling media pressure. They tried to bait him, and he flipped the script. Respect. Others sided with the host, saying Adams missed an opportunity to use his platform. Athletes have influence. They should speak out. It's disappointing to see him dodge the conversation. This just proves he doesn't care about real issues. The debate hit every sports talk show the next morning. ESPN analysts broke down the interview, arguing over whether Adams' stance was justified. One host defended him. He's not a politician, he's a football player. Why is that so hard to accept? Another disagreed. But when you reach a certain level of fame, you become more than just an athlete. Even other NFL players weighed in. A star quarterback tweeted, "Let players be players." Not everyone wants to be a spokesperson. A retired legend posted, "Adams handled that perfectly. People need to stop forcing athletes into conversations they don't want to have." But the moment that really shook the internet? The host himself responded. He posted a short, vague tweet that only added fuel to the fire. Interesting how people react when they're challenged. That single sentence sent the debate into overdrive. Was the host trying to save face? Or was Adams truly the one who controlled the conversation? The media storm wasn't dying down, and then Adams finally spoke out. His response? It shut the conversation down for good. For 2 days, the internet was on fire. Everyone had an opinion about what Davante Adams had said. Some thought he was brilliant, standing his ground against media pressure. Others felt he dodged an important conversation. But while the world argued, Adams stayed silent. No tweets, no statements, nothing. Until finally, he broke his silence. At a press conference after practice, a reporter brought up the controversy. Davante, your interview on TV show sparked a huge reaction. Do you stand by what you said? Adams took a sip of water, then smirked slightly. I didn't say anything crazy. I just didn't say what they wanted me to. The reporters chuckled, but Adams wasn't done. Look, I respect people's right to speak on what they care about. But I also respect people's right to not be forced into conversations they didn't ask for. He leaned back, relaxed, but his words were clear. I'm a football player. I put my energy into my game. If I want to speak on something, I will. But I'm not going to be pressured into giving answers just to satisfy someone else's agenda. The room went quiet for a moment. Then the reporters rushed to tweet his response. Within minutes, his words were everywhere. Fans praised him for staying true to himself. He didn't back down. He didn't apologize, just kept it real. More athletes need to set boundaries like this. The media lost this one. Even some sports analysts admitted, like him or not, Davante Adams made a powerful point about controlling your own narrative. As for the TV host, he never responded. The debate had shifted. Adams had the last word. And that's why, even long after the interview faded from headlines, his final words remained unforgettable. Davante Adams didn't let the media control his words. He controlled the conversation. Some people agreed with him, others didn't, but one thing is certain. His final words went viral. What do you think? Was Adams right to stand his ground, or should athletes use their platform to speak on bigger issues? Let us know in the comments. If you love shocking and untold NFL stories, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable moments. More incredible stories are coming soon. Don't miss out.